Hello everyone, welcome back to another film discussion. My name is Adam, and in today's episode we're going to be talking all about collecting physical media. I've got 7 hot tips for you if you're either looking to first getting into collecting films, or maybe you've been doing it for a while and you've run up against a few hurdles. 7 top tips that are going to save you a lot of money, a lot of heartache, and overcome a lot of obstacles that I came across and mistakes that I made when I first started collecting films back in the early 90s. Now, in today's day and age, 2025, as I'm recording this video, it is a minefield if you're looking to collect films. There's so many different formats. There's so many different TVs and projectors and sound systems. It's like, what do I choose? What's the best? And it is a real minefield. Back comparing it when I first started collecting films in the early 90s, I was 12, so it was like I only had a CRT TV and VHS to contend with. There was Laserdisc, there was rear projection TVs or projectors, but they were only for the super rich. And so VHS is all I had to focus on. And I made a lot of mistakes over the next couple of decades that I want to impart my wisdom to you. Okay? For instance, when I started first collecting VHS, I was just going after the films that I'd seen in the cinema. Stuff that I wanted to see, like Jurassic Park, and got it on VHS, lovely jubbly. And then by about 97, 98, DVD came out. And obviously that format was way better than VHS. Clearer picture, higher resolution, digital surround sound. The discs don't wear out just because you're playing them. It was a no-brainer to move on to DVD. Still on the CRT TV, and DVDs looked amazing over VHS. So I literally sold my entire collection and started to buy DVDs, starting to replace the collection I had by buying, say, like Jurassic Park again on DVD, paying full price for it a second time. Now, a lot of people around me, like my mom and my sisters, were like, you can just go rent that film from the shop. We didn't have streaming, we didn't have 4K Blu-ray, there was the only kind of other alternative to buying it was to go to the local mom and pop's rental store, because, Blockbusters, I don't think started happening until the late 90s, so it was like you go to local mom and pa's rental shop and rent a film for like a $5 for 3 days. And I never really did that. I never subscribed to that. Mainly because if I was to ask my younger self why, I would always say because I want to own it. I want to keep it. And that reason being was like, I'll watch a film multiple times, and when you rent it, you take it back and then that's done. So if I wanted to watch that film again, I'd have to go rent it again. After about the 4th or 5th rental, you might as well have just bought it. You're paying more money to rent it. And the reason I'd watch a film multiple times is because when you watch a film for the first time, you have a certain type of experience as you uncover the story. But then when you watch it on a repeat for a second or third viewing, and not like straight after, we're talking maybe months or years later, you pick up things that you didn't see in the first viewing, subplots or background details, and you're able to appreciate the film on a different level. And with each new viewing becomes this deeper appreciation for the film. So I do like to watch films multiple times to get a really different full experience. So renting for me was just never an option. So yeah, buying the films, owning them, and then of course you have somewhere in the living room to put them all. And then of course DVD came along, so sell the lot, and then buying again full price. And I think I got about 90% of my VHS collection back on DVD. So it wasn't too bad. But then Blu-ray came out, and by that time the TV had turned from a CRT to a 1080p, and I had the PlayStation 3, which is designed to play Blu-rays at the end of the day, so DVDs don't look their best on a 1080p display. They're looking tired, and so of course getting a Blu-ray version of the film now was a no-brainer, because deeper color, more resolution to match the display. It's not upscaling the DVD, making it look blocky, but The detail of the picture was less compressed, the sound was less compressed, the discs were bigger so you could fit more on. So again, kind of a no-brainer. Sold the DVD collection completely. I mean, by then I'd actually amassed more titles on DVD than I had on VHS, and started to buy again on Blu-ray. Again, Jurassic Park on Blu-ray, paying full price for the third time, and carried that forth. I think I've only reclaimed about 60 to 70% of the DVDs that I had on Blu-ray before 4K came out. Now 4K came out around about the same time, I believe, that streaming came out. Now I initially got caught into that trap again, started to buy like Jurassic Park on 4K, and buying those films that I had on Blu-ray, but buying them in 4K because by now I actually do have a 4K TV, and yes, they do look better than over the Blu-ray. So let's start buying the 4Ks. I never actually sold any Blu-rays. I never got rid of them, so there's a few 4Ks that I also have the Blu-ray for. But after about the 6th purchase of the film, I thought, what am I doing? Like, I'm replacing my entire collection here. Why? And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And there is a totally better way. You don't need to go chasing after the latest and greatest and thinking you've got to have the latest technology because your TV is a 4K. There is a much easier way where you don't have to spend as much money. And so this is what my 7 tips are: saving you money, not wasting your money, being able to manage and afford a collection that you want. So for whatever reason you're getting into collecting films, maybe like me, you're sick of streaming and you want to have the physical thing, or you just want to have a small collection of like your favorite director, your favorite actor or actress, maybe your favorite genre, whatever your reason, it's up to you, your collection. Here are the 7 tips that will prevent you from making mistakes like I did, not bleeding you dry of money by reclaiming titles again and again, and to just have a better experience, And the number one, I would say there are 2 main sort of Achilles heels to collecting film, and that is money and space. But the number 1 tip here is have a clear plan before you buy anything for what you want to start collecting. Is it TV shows? Is it Marvel films, Star Wars films? Is it comedies? Whatever the case may be, write a list down of everything you want to have in your collection. Plan your collection first. That's the first step. This is going to prevent you from impulse buying, because I've done it myself, where a film comes out, new release, you might already have it on DVD or Blu-ray, it's coming out, like say on 4K, and you're like, you're watching maybe even a YouTuber saying this is the best ever, and you're getting hyped up and you're like, I want it, and you just go buy it, and it might have cost you 50 or 60 pounds, and you might not have bought that had you seen this hype or been aware of its release. You probably would have bought it further down the line when it was a little bit cheaper. So having a plan for the films you want and going after those will prevent you from impulse buying. Impulse buying just drains your bank account and kind of makes you regret the film purchase, and maybe even sell it later on and then have to buy it back when you change your mind again. But if you plan out, you know exactly where you're going. You're not just scrambling around in the dark, grabbing anything and everything. You have a clear path and vision for where you want to go. So tip number 1 is plan your collection. Tip number 2, and this is a really important one, is the space. Right? Think about how big your collection will be once you've made the list. Think about the space required to house that. Looking at some collections here, like some of the films released, Blu-rays can be really thin. The spines are pretty thin, but they soon add up. But they're not all the same size. Like this is a Blu-ray, and so is this a Blu-ray, but it's a thicker box. It's got compared to this one. And then like another thing is, TV sets, they're even bigger, they're even thicker. So know what collection you're getting first so you can plan your space. Like when I first started buying films, I was like, right, I'm going to put them in the living room because that's where the TV and player is. So we need a unit, and I got a unit pretty much like this one here to begin with, and it soon filled up. And so I was like, right, I need to get another unit, but it couldn't sit next to that one. It had to go, you know, round the corner in the dining room, and then eventually you fill that one up as well. And it's so easy to fill these units up, you know, with like buying loads of films, especially with different size box sets. Like there is a box set I have somewhere of Lost, and it's quite large on Blu-ray. You know, my ER box set, again, quite large. Think about the space that you need for your collection, because before you know it, you're going to have one of these units in your bathroom, in your bedroom, you know, in the kitchen, and that is a mistake straight off the bat. Splitting up your collection, right? Eventually, you're going to have storage boxes, you know, you're going to be anywhere and everywhere, and you're going to forget what films you've got. You're going to be like, oh, I've just bought this again and I already had it. You know, having all your films in one location means you can literally go through them and say, right, here's the film I want to watch, but here's what I know I've got. And if everything's split up in different rooms, it can actually damage the integrity of the disc. You know, it really does depend. And I'm going to do a whole separate video on how to like maintain your collection, okay? But yeah, having everything in one space, meaning you need to know how big that space is. How many shelving units are you going to need? Plan that out first before you buy any films. It just saves you the stress of running out of space, okay? Number 3, and this is an important one, don't be swayed by YouTubers. You know, follow your own heart and your own plan. Now, it hasn't arrived yet, but to prove this point, a couple of weeks ago, I was watching a YouTuber who was talking about a 4K release, and he's like, this is a really good transfer, really, you know, the usual spiel, blows the Blu-ray out of the water and all this, right? And it's a film that I used to watch as a kid, and I'm like, yeah, I don't actually have that on DVD or Blu-ray. And I'm like, and it came with a commentary track that the Blu-ray and DVD didn't have, and I'm like, yes, okay, when I go to get it, that's the one I'm going to go get, you know, eventually. And then he said it was an independent label doing it. I can't remember the name. Vinegar Syndrome did it. That was it. Vinegar Syndrome. And just out of curiosity to see how much it was, because he never did mention it, I went on their website and they said that they were only making 8,000 copies. I'm like, oh shit, that's going to go quick, because 8,000 copies isn't a lot out of the millions of people that collect films. I better get this now, because I might come back next month, next year, and it ain't here. And then I've got to go on bloody, you know, eBay and pay 3 times the price. Because at the end of the day, being on 4K it wasn't the film on 4K, it was the bonus features that came with it, because they weren't available on previous formats, you know. And it's not that the YouTuber swayed me to 4K, he swayed me to the website where I realized it's limited pressings, and that, you know, I pulled the trigger and bought it. Now this is an import, so it was like $35 if you lived in America. It cost me £60 to import it from America. So I wouldn't have spent that money had I not seen that video and not been swayed by the YouTuber. Now in this instance, I'm thankful because it was a limited pressing. But to be honest, there's a lot of people on YouTube who get paid to present the latest and greatest 4K. Like studios will send them a free copy, and then they will have links in their description box that are affiliated by, say, like Amazon, and every time somebody clicks that link, because they've said, I've got links down below, go buy it, it's great, it's amazing, it's the latest 4K, blows the previous release out of the water, this is a must have, get you hyped up, you click the link, they get paid by Amazon for you clicking the link and purchasing the film. The video is monetized. They're just raking in the money. They couldn't give a shit what film you like, or even if you like this film, as long as you're buying it. Like, and I'm not saying all YouTubers are like that, but I could identify 3 YouTubers who literally go back on their word because of the release of the film. And not being swayed by a YouTuber helps you to stop wasting your money. Point in case, Silence of the Lambs. I think in 2009, maybe 2010, Criterion did a rescan of the negatives, 4K scan, and they released a Blu-ray, version of Silence of the Lambs. And then I think it was 2018 or 19, Kino Lorber licensed the digital intermediates for that 4K scan, so they could then create their own 4K version of Silence of the Lambs. Now, Criterion have always worked with the director of photography on their releases. Kino Lorber didn't, and they completely regraded the picture, and it was like a green hue all over it, and it was, in my opinion, diabolical, a waste of money to buy. But it was the first time it had been out of 4K, so of course the YouTubers who got it free like a week before, or those who are affiliated, were like, this is the first 4K release of Silence of the Lambs, it's the best it's ever looked, it blows the Criterion out of the water, the usual buzzwords that they usually do. And they were proper selling it, even though it was trash. And then 2 years later, Arrow Video, again, they went to Criterion, licensed the digital intermediates of the 4K scan, so they could release a 4K version of Silence of the Lambs, which was back to the original grading that Criterion had kind of set up, plus they threw in their own extras. And the very same YouTubers were going, this is the best one ever, this is the ultimate definitive one you want to get, blows the Kino Lorber out of the water. And I'm like, dude, you just said that about the previous release. You're literally just getting people to click your links. Like, those types of YouTubers I do not rate, because they just want you to make them money. So don't be swayed by YouTubers. Have a plan, have a list, go after those. Yes, utilize people on YouTube who are showing you screenshots of the film so you can see what the picture grade is like. That is very important, but don't be hyped up, because they're just salesmen at the end of the day. They're promoters. They're designed there to promote that release. So that's tip number 3. Okay, number 4. And this is quite important as well, because there's nothing worse than the missus yapping at you, you're spending all that money, or shit, I haven't got the money for like bills or food or rent or whatever, right? And then you're falling into debt, and nobody ever should be falling into debt for any type of hobby, because that's what this is, a hobby. Have a number every single month that you will spend only on physical media, and it is a number once you've paid your food bill, your rent bill, and your bills. Those are the most important things. Those are done first, and then see what's left. Obviously, save some for savings. You don't want to be spending all the rest of your money. You might want to go on holiday, but have a number and say, right, I've got like, say, £300 left over after I've spent my bills and my all that. I got £300. I'm going to spend 100 on physical media in that given month. So every month I spend £100 on physical media. That way, not only are you very selective with what you buy, because you've only got £100 a month, but you're managing your finances to not fall into debt, because a hobby is just a hobby. It is like an enjoyment of life. It's not something that takes over your life and rules your finances, and you fall into debt and behind, and then start after selling off your collection because you've got to pay the rent. I had a massive Laserdisc collection that I feel like I was forced to, but at the end of the day, I could have said no, but I did sell it to raise money for a bill that at the end of the day I could have raised elsewhere, but pressure, stress and all that, and I regret that totally. You don't want to have regrets when you're enjoying your hobby. So manage your finances by only spending so much. Now, I can hear everybody what they're saying, yeah, but 4K discs are like 50 quid a pop. I can only buy 2 4K films a month, and there's like 5 releases a month, and I'm like, whoa, hold on, Jimmy, hold on. Who says you have to go after 4K? Yes, 4Ks are like 25 to 50 quid each, but Blu-rays, and you know, we're talking about older films here, because if you had the choice between a 4K and a Blu-ray with a 4K telly, you're probably going to want to go for the 4K. And I seriously doubt it will be a new release on Blu-ray, because the 4K has a Blu-ray inside, so you might as well go for a 4K. But we're talking about older titles with Blu-rays and DVDs now. Older titles that have been out for years on secondhand, like eBay or whatever, you can buy a Blu-ray for a $5, a tenner, and you know, having £100 or even £60, the cost of what I paid for that 4K film, and by the way, the film was called Daryl, in case I hadn't mentioned it. 60 quid. Yeah, I can buy one 4K title, or I can buy like 5 to 10 Blu-rays. Like, wow, that's actually a lot more films versus one. And I know you're going, yeah, but I got a 4K telly, got a 4K player. Yeah, hold on, sit down, mister, and just listen. Wait, right? DVDs, you can go to a charity shop, they're £1 each. On eBay, I've bought plenty of DVDs for £2. This one was £1.68 on eBay, and it's a 2-disc set. So that's like, you know, 60 quid. You could have 30 films, 20 to 30 films on DVD. Like 20 to 30 films versus 5 to 10 versus 1. It's kind of a no-brainer right there. If you're looking for a budget and you want to manage your finances but yet still get the films, you really need to be smart about what you're buying. And that's where the tip number 4 is: only have a certain amount of money a month to spend on physical media. This makes you more selective and smart with your purchases. Tip number 5, don't buy the latest releases. Okay, like what is the latest release that's come out as of recording this video? I think the last one I saw was like Tombstone or something, right? Which I've already got. I've got the Vista version of Tombstone. Totally happy with this. This was made back in 2003 from the original scan that was done back in the 90s maybe, or the early 2000s. So it's a digital scan, not an analog scan. And I'll do a video on the differences between analog scanning and digital scanning, because they are big differences. You know, films back in the 90s versus films in the 2000s. So 4K Tombstone doesn't interest me. I'm not going to go after that latest release because I have it, and most likely you probably got it on Blu-ray, and you know that could be fine as well. You know, if you go after the latest releases, you're spending top dollar like I did. You know, Jurassic Park, I bought the latest format release every time it came out, so I paid 4 times over for Jurassic Park on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray and 4K, and each was at full price. That's nearly £100 I spent on one film. Think of all the films you could buy for £100, you know, rather than just the one film. You know, if you buy the latest releases, you're spending the highest prices. Okay, not very many latest releases end up in like Black Friday deals, or you know, buy 1 for 2 or 2 for 30 or whatever the deal may be. Sometimes they do, but more often than not they want the full price for a new release. And if you only buy new releases, maybe because you've already got everything else, you're spending 5 times more money than you would if you bought older releases. Okay, see what I'm saying here? It increases your budget for films at the end of the day if you don't buy new releases. Go to your list that you created of all the films you want and have a look at what the oldest release is on the media. So on DVD, on Blu-ray, on 4K, which one came out first? You know, go after those first. You can find them second hand. You can find, like I said, DVDs for £1 or even £2 on eBay. There is nothing wrong with second hand films. Most everything in this stack here was bought second hand. Daryl was the last film I bought brand new. Prior to that, I can't even remember the last film that I bought brand new. Most all my films are, you know, secondhand, and they're absolutely fine. There is nothing wrong. Point in case here, Face Off. This is the DVD. Cost me £2.12 on eBay, and it is not scratched at all. The booklet is in here, perfect condition. I mean, it is the UK version, and it is a cut version. So when I found that out, I was like, idiots. So I went out and got the uncut American version, and the only one I could find cheaply was on Blu-ray. So it has all the special features I wanted, you know. But that was, here's another instance where I bought the same film bloody twice, you know, because I didn't have a plan. I didn't go do my research first, you know. And I ended up wasting £2.12, you know. So yeah, if you buy the latest releases, you're spending a lot more money. Okay, manage your finances, increases your budget for films. Buy your oldest films first, you know, on the format that is the relevant for you. And I'm going to get into all that after the top 7 tips, okay? Because 4K isn't necessarily the best, and I'm going to do a whole separate video on why 4K isn't all it's made up to be, or isn't all that, you know. The tip number 6 now, okay? Hunt down the best deals to get the best price and buy in bulk, okay? If you only have £100 to spend each month, do it all in one location, all at the same time. If you go to eBay, there are a lot of sellers who, if you buy multiple films from them, you get a massive reduction in price. You know, they'll have, even on their little web store, a 2 for X amount of money, or a 5 for X amount of money, or if you buy 4 films from us, you'll get 40% off 2 of them, or something like that. If you go on, obviously, Black Friday on Amazon, if you go in store, there'll be deals in that store. You gotta do your research and hunt down the best deals to get the best price. And the more you spend in one location, the more discount you'll get. And so you'll be able to acquire even more. So you gotta hunt down and do your research, okay? This allows you just to buy more, to acquire more. Now, I'm not saying like this as a hoarding thing, like you gotta have it all. No. If you're going after the Marvel films, there's like 30 of them. So if you can, you know, manage your finances, if you can, you know, budget and go after deals, you can then get to that 30 quicker. Like, there's no rush at the end of the day. But on some films there is, because they only do them in limited pressings. And if you're buying secondhand, you're at the mercy of the scalpers. And in all honesty, there's a lot of films on eBay way overpriced, but there's also a lot of films on eBay that are so cheap as chips, you know, and you just got to do your research and hunt them down, that's all. And the final tip, number 7, is look after your collection, okay? This prevents you having to replace discs and spending more money on the same title, because, oh no, that one's scratched now, or heat damage, or cold damage, or water damage, or because I put it in storage it's got mold all over it. You've got to look after your collection, you know. And it goes even as far as like the discs, put them back in the cases. It's as simple as that, you know. If you're gonna need to clean it, don't use solvents on the disc, you know. You can literally clean a DVD using your breath and your finger, or even if you have, I don't have them in here to hand, but if you wear glasses, the little lint cloth that comes with them, and then rub over. And that is the best way to clean a DVD. Don't use solvents. Don't put things in your player where it says spin this with a little bit of drizzle and then it cleans your lens, and it's lens cleaners. It's like that can actually damage the inside of your DVD player. Put the discs back in, you know, their cases. Make sure you click them and put them back on the shelf. Don't have them all just lying around everywhere. It's stored in boxes. You know, this is what's going to, you know, ruin your collection before you even start, and then you have to replace everything again. because it's like, oh, and we're not talking about disc rot at the end of the day. You know, that's a different thing. So that's pretty much the 7 top tips. Now, let's talk about the hardware and, you know, the formats side of it, because, you know, at the end of the day, 4K and all that. Okay, this is a little preview to that video. You know, I got King Kong on 4K, right? I've had this on DVD. I've had it even on a super DVD set, the 3-disc set, right? Which I've kind of ruined, because I'll tell you in a second. But I got it on Blu-ray. I even got it on HD DVD. And now finally I got it on 4K. This 4K King Kong is an absolute waste of time, okay? Yes, it does have a Blu-ray inside of it, right? It comes with both the extended and the theatrical in 4K. Great. I love that. But it also comes with the Blu-ray, so that's good. That's what I'm after, actually. And then it's got a bonus disc. Now, the 4K version of King Kong is pointless, okay? This film was entirely shot on digital cameras. And then it was transferred to 35mm for some cinemas. But the Kong effects, all the CGI, was mastered in 2K. The digital intermediate that they created to then do anything with was all done in 2K. The native resolution is locked for this film in 2K. Why have we got it in 4K? Because they upscaled it. Your TV, by the way, and your Blu-ray player, your 4K player, can upscale. If you've got a 4K TV and you've got a Blu-ray player, and a 4K Blu-ray player in particular, you can pop a Blu-ray in there and it will upscale it to 4K. It ain't gonna add HDR, okay? It ain't gonna suddenly add resolution. It scales the native to the display, and that's all it does. But it fills in with algorithms and arithmetics, the colors, the denoising, to make it look less blocky, noisy, whatever the upscaling does to it. It refines it and it gives it, you know, a look. And to be honest, that's pretty much what Peter Jackson did for the film's digital intermediate when they made the 4K. They made it into 4K so it could take advantage of the format's HDR, but every element in that file was still 2K upscaled. So it's like, what's the point in having it in 4K? Like, yeah, we got HDR, and it is native to my TV's display, but then the Blu-ray of it is exactly the same. It's like the Blu-ray is also going to be native because it's going to get upscaled, and it's going to be upscaled less because at the end of the day, this was upscaled from 2K to 4K. You're upscaling a 1080p to 4K. There's going to be a difference, but not by much. You know, the Blu-ray, I would say, is probably more closer to what they had it in the mastering suite than what you're going to have in the home on the 4K, because there's less upscaling effectively, I believe, because 1080p to 2K is less than 2K to 4K. So I think that goes down. So I think the Blu-ray will actually look better. Maybe I'll do a test for that video. But anyway, that's a little teaser. That's one reason why 4K ain't all that. Only like very particular example there, okay? Another example is James Cameron in it. This will really help you decide, right? Don't believe you have to get the 4K every instance, you know, of the film, because it may not be the best, you know. I've got True Lies on DVD. Now, this never got a Blu-ray release until the 4K version came out recently, I think this year, or maybe late last year. This DVD version is actually a re-release, I believe, in 2007 or something like that. It's not like the original release, you know, from the 90s. This is a re-release. It says 1999 on it, so it was 1999, sorry. So yeah, DVD. This is from the transfer at the time when it, when they were making the home video version. I've also got it on Laserdisc, which will come from pretty much the same transfer, which would be a 2K digital intermediate. So they scanned the negatives 2K, and then they made the Laserdisc, the initial VHS, and the initial DVD. But then evidently they went back and scanned again, most likely for the upcoming 4K. Maybe this was still the 2K, but they just went back and redid it. But so this is closer to what all the other releases have been, But the 4K version, which I'm not going to buy, has got DNR on it, and sometimes the people look a little bit waxy. Everybody says it's worth it. Go get it. But at the end of the day, DNR not only removes detail and makes people have a waxy looking face, it can alter the elements within a single frame. It can, because it's an AI algorithm, it's an automatic process. It can mistake a tree in the background for a telephone pole and completely wipe it out. It can mistake, it doesn't know what it's looking at. So when they scrub 4K films, excuse me, I need some water here. When they scan the negatives in 4K, it's such a high resolution. It picks up everything in that frame. It picks up the grain, the dirt, the dust, and it makes it look a lot bigger because the resolution is bigger. And so obviously you don't want to see that on your 4K, so they DNR it, and sometimes they apply it too much, but it's all a automated process filtering system. I don't want my films filtered. I want to see any film grain. And when you do a 2K scan of a film, print or negative, it doesn't pick up as much film grain, but it picks up all the detail of the elements within the frame it needs to, just as much as a 4K will. But it picks up less of that dirt and dust and grain, and so doesn't need to be scrubbed as much. Maybe DNR is used slightly, but not as heavy as on a 4K release. This DVD on my setup, which I'll tell you about in a second, will look just as good, if not better, than the 4K, because it hasn't been DNR scrubbed, because in 4K everything shows up. On this, 480i this is a 480 interlaced DVD. It's not going to show up all the flaws like it would in 4K, so they don't need to scrub it. Same with the Abyss. I've got the DVD version of the Abyss. I don't need that 4K, which comes with a Blu-ray from the same transfer. This version here from 1990 something is actually really good. And as much as everybody raves about the 4K, the colors are changed, on that 4K. And so I don't want a grade that's altered or colors slightly tweaked. Obviously, Terminator 2 is the one everybody knows. They completely changed the coloring on that, and it's 4K, you don't have to feel like you got to go run out and get it. Even Blu-ray is good enough. So like I said before, I've got Face Off on Blu-ray, I got Face Off on DVD. Now the reason, as I say, I got this one first, and the listing said it was the Region 1, so I thought I was getting the Region 1 version, and it came and it's the English version. Now I wasn't that bothered because it cost like £2, less than that. So I was like, shit, I need to go and source an actual Region 1. But the reason I wanted a Region 1 is because the runtime of Face Off, I believe, is something like 138 or 140 minutes. This one's got 7 minutes missing from the runtime that's theatrical. So I don't want a cut version of my film. So this runtime on here says, if I can find it, literally saw it 5 minutes ago. Yeah. So the runtime on this one says 140 minutes, so it's not cut. So I don't mind, obviously this costs a little bit more than a £2 DVD, but I don't mind that because I don't want the film cut. So in this instance, and I know this is available on 4K as well, but again, when you're scanning old prints from the 90s, You know, at the end of the day, you're picking up the time of dust that's, you know, built up. Like, celluloid degrades over time. So if this film was made in, I believe, 1996 or 1997, and they've been sitting in a vault somewhere, yeah, they're temperature controlled, they're looked after, but they're still degrading because they're celluloid, they'll still degrade. And then you go and scan them. You have to then, to restore them, you've got to then manipulate the files and scrub the image and do all sorts of other things that they never had to do when they made that first version. And at the end of the day, this version will have come from the same master as this version. So effectively, it's the same transfer of film. Because, you know, back in the day, they'll make a 2K master, and then all, you know, DVDs came off that, and then even the Blu-rays came off that because it's still in 2K. So now that 4K, I don't need to buy that. I'm happy with my Blu-ray. It looks great, upscaled to 4K. I'm happy. It's got all the extras on there I need and everything, but I don't need to go spend a 35, 40 quid on a 4K, you know. Another one is Lord of the Rings. And I'll do two more examples, and then we'll call it quits, because I know you probably go, yeah, I get it, mate, I get it. But Lord of the Rings, this is the box set I have. Now, it's the DVD box set, as it were, but it's not the DVDs, okay? So I got this box set, which was purely all DVDs inside at the time, and then they brought out the extended Blu-ray versions, which the discs, I don't know, man, the collection when it came out on Blu-ray wasn't as enticing or as nice as the DVD set. You know, this DVD set looks pretty sweet. They look like old volume books. But when they did it on Blu-ray, which, to be honest, I do believe had all the same extras, you know, it just didn't have that same niceness to it. So what I did is, yes, I did get the Blu-rays, because they will have an improvement over the DVD. And I popped the Blu-ray films in here, gave the DVD versions of the films to the kids, and so now I've got the best of both worlds. I've got the DVD packaging, which looks awesome, with the Blu-ray films, it's best quality, but I also have the DVD extras, which have menu systems that Blu-ray don't replicate. So it truly is the best of both worlds. So this whole set is probably, if I can find out where it goes, it is probably the best version to own. Now everyone's going to say, yeah, but the 4Ks are better. It's like, no, they're not actually. The first film was shot on actual film, so that could be as good or low quality as the scanning and mastering process do, but the second two films were shot digitally, and it was all done in 2K. It was all mastered in 2K, so it ain't ever going to be any higher than 2K. All the special effects are in 2K, you know, the After Effect work. So that 4K, as everybody knows, is a pure upscale again. It's like, it's not a real 4K. It's an upscaled 4K. My 4K Blu-ray player and my TV combined will upscale a Blu-ray to 4K in-house. I don't need to have the studio do it and then charge me 3 times the price for it, when I can do it with a Blu-ray in here. Now, even the color grade on that 4K set is different to what we got here. I do prefer this one. So I'll never need to buy that, what, 70, 80, 100 pound sets, you know, of the 3 films extended on 4K, because I got them here on this DVD Blu-ray set that I kind of put together, you know. The final one I'm going to say is The Frighteners. The Frighteners came out on 4K finally on this massive 6-disc set where you got 3 versions of the films on Blu-ray and 4K, and you got, like, honestly, it was crazy set. Cost like over £100, I believe. So, which I think I have it on Laserdisc. I don't know, but I used to have it on DVD and Blu-ray and all that. But I've got the Blu-ray version, and this version is not from the same master as that 4K, because I believe this is from Universal. So, but it does give me the director's cut, the theatrical cut, and all the extras that appear on that 4K set. It just doesn't come with the open map version, and obviously the 4Ks, which really bump up the price on any release. But it has everything else with it. And again, my Blu-ray player will upscale this to 4K, and it will look nice. Now, I do understand that the 4K is a completely different transfer than this one, but a 4K transfer sometimes is not always the best. I've heard that the ghosts look different than they do in this version, that the transfer, the coloring, even though it's supervised by Peter Jackson, has slightly changed from the original. I prefer the original in the best quality. I prefer the theatrical, the director's cut in the best quality. And if all the extras and the best quality for me is sitting on a DVD, I would rather get that than a Blu-ray, which might have less extras, be a cut version, or be more digitally enhanced like a 4K. I'd rather get this. Now, the reason I can say this is because I do have a native DVD player as well. This is a Region 1, and I have a native DVD player that plays Region 1, and it goes through my, not only my THX amplifier, but it goes through a video processing scaler, which basically takes the 480i image on the disc, it deinterlaces it if it needs to, it then upscales it to 1080p, sends that signal to the TV over HDMI, the TV receives it and scales it up to 4K. Now, the scaling ability of my TV, which is a OLED C something, it's like the latest one, LG 65-inch whatever, has better scaling features than that Kramer, right, for denoising, right? But the Kramer has better upscaling features for transferring one small image to a big image. So both of them work together, and DVDs look like Blu-rays on my telly. Like, they look great. So I don't need to go get the Blu-ray for this, because I've got it all here on this Criterion edition, which the extras are exclusive to. So of course I'm going to get this. Now, I think they did bring this out on Blu-ray, but I don't need to go buy that if I've got the DVD. So what I'm saying is I have the choice between DVD, Blu-ray and 4K to source the best version, to have the cheapest price, to be able to collect more, all within my managed budget and space. And that is what this whole 7 list top tips is about. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you've made it this far to the end. Sorry it's so long. I'm going to get a lot of people saying, mate, you could have just condensed that down into 10 minutes, but I don't think you'd have understood why I was saying what I was saying. I did mention as well that I would talk, go over this thing. So this was the DVD set, so its case comes down to about here. I chopped it up to make a Blu-ray set, because the DVDs the DVDs are in here, and I completely cannibalized that. So you got disc 1 and disc 2 of the film, that's the DVD version, and then I put the production diaries in, because obviously they're a part of the King Kong making of. And then at the time I had the HD DVD version of King Kong, and then that's the bonus features. So yeah, I kind of wish I hadn't done this. I wish I hadn't cannibalized this DVD set, destroying it to turn it into something new. That is probably the bonus tip. Never do that. Never change things. Keep everything original. If you don't like it, then just go buy something you do like, but don't cannibalize things for other things. That's one mistake I've made time and time again. Anyway, like I said, thank you so much for watching this. More reviews coming, more discussions coming. I want to do a full-on in-depth video as to why 4K ain't all that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a 4K hater. I do like 4K, but sometimes I just don't see a need for it. If I've got it and I'm happy, then I don't need a degraded 4K upscale or whatever, but I do like 4K, don't get me wrong. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.